But we'll start the new hour with this.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
At my direction, the United States launched
a dangerous and daring nighttime raid.
A small team of Americans carried out
their mission in grand style.
Over the years, I've repeatedly made clear
we will continue to pursue the remaining ISIS terrorists.
May God bless you. And may
God bless America. Thank you. Any questions?
The raid that killed bin Laden was a seminal moment in the Obama administration. How will Baghdadi's death shape the Trump presidency? That's the question we're looking at this morning.
That is a question we're looking at. And, of course, Richard Haass, the President of the United States, went on talking about how Baghdadi died like a, quote, dog, a coward, a whimpering and sniveling. He sounded not like a president of the United States. He actually sounded like Saddam Hussein after torturing people, sounded like Muammar Gaddafi after he would torture people. It was, again, just like the chance of lock him up last night at the game. It was deeply un-American, deeply troubling. I'm curious, though. Let's step back from the president's bungling stagecraft, step back from all of his un-American strongman instincts, and let's just look at the geopolitical implications of what happened yesterday. What are your thoughts? How does this shape the fight against ISIS, and the fight against terrorism, Islamic terrorism specifically, in the years to come?
Well, the upside, Joe, is it once again demonstrates the capability, which is truly impressive and global, when you marry up American soldiers, in this case Special Operations Forces, with American intelligence. And when we're willing and able to act that way, it's impressive. That's the clear upside. The downside is, given the nature of the adversary, there's no, to use a phrase you used before, Battleship Missouri Day. You don't eliminate terrorism. You can't decapitate its leadership. It's now an open-ended struggle. So we have to, we can't do victory dances based upon a day, because tomorrow, for all we know, we're going to be attacked somewhere else. And then, just as important, what worries me is that we've unilaterally removed many of the preconditions of our success. We no longer have the soldiers on the ground throughout the region. We're no longer able to forge or maintain relationships with groups like Syrian Kurds, because, quite honestly, they don't trust us. And one day, or one episode's cooperation between this White House and the American intelligence community doth not a relationship make. So what worries me is, going forward, the enemy is still going to be there. The question is, will we?
And I want to ask you, David Ignatius, your thoughts again. Let's just look over the past decade or so. Of course, Al-Qaeda, which was considered to be the worst of the worst, that led to Zawahiri in Iraq, and even had Al-Qaeda had Al-Qaeda writing him letters saying, "Hey, back off! You're going too extreme. You don't blow up weddings. You don't do the type of things that you're doing." Then, of course, his death and Osama bin Laden's death in 2011 leads to ISIS, and now, of course, we've killed the head of ISIS. I'm wondering, does it fracture? Does the radical Islam movement continue to fracture across the globe? Does it become more difficult? Or do we dare look at the past few years and say, you know what? The pace of the attacks are down. They certainly are significantly down since 2014, 2015.
Joe, I think there are 2 points that I'd make. One, the ability and determination of the U.S. using these extraordinary troops and tactics to go after our adversaries. In the case of al-Baghdadi, this is a person who brutally murdered 3 journalists, in addition to thousands and thousands of Syrians and other Arabs. And we made a vow: we're going to get you. we're going after you. And we delivered on that vow, just as with Osama bin Laden. The world sees that, and that sign of America's continuing power is something that the world takes seriously. It is haunting to recall that ISIS erupted as this new, totally super toxic movement after the killing of bin Laden. That didn't seem to have much deterrent effect on the next wave of ISIS. So I guess the second lesson for me is this is not something that you finish up and then walk away from. If there's one thing I hope President Trump takes from this, it's that you need to stay engaged. I think Lindsey Graham's patting himself on the back for having come up with this idea, let's stay and protect the oil. Well, if that keeps some U.S. troops in the region, a modest contingent, you know, okay, if that's the rationale he buys. But the real point is that we need to be there to continue to conduct counter-terrorist operations. The same argument applies to Afghanistan. There's still a lot of people who want to kill Americans and Westerners in Afghanistan, and there's got to be some capability to deal with them. Final point that strikes me, Joe, is the president in this rambling 48-minute or whatever it was quasi-press conference disclosed more detail about the operation than I'm aware any president, any senior official has ever disclosed, and it made the military very uneasy. There are some senior military officers who just are shaking their heads today about details, you know, what was done when they approached the bunker. You didn't do this, instead you did that. How many helicopters were used? Pretty much making clear where they were flying from. The initial tweet came at a time when the site, I'm told, was still pretty hot. You know, it was just, you know, a lot still going on there. Very unwise to have put that out. So the president's desire, using the language that President Obama said he wouldn't ever do, to spike the football. Hey, we got it. Does come with some costs.
Yeah, so here is the president, and I think, as David points out, it's important to look at the language that's used and discuss why it may or may not have been not only inappropriate, but dangerous and untoward on so many levels. Here's the president talking about how Baghdadi died.
From the first day I came to office, and now we're getting close to 3 years, I would say, where's al-Baghdadi? I want al-Baghdadi. And we would kill terrorist leaders, but they were names I never heard of. They were names that weren't recognizable, and they weren't the big names. Some good ones, some important ones, but they weren't the big names. I kept saying, where's al-Baghdadi? And a couple of weeks ago, they were able to scope him out. You know, these people are very smart. They're not into the use of cell phones anymore. They're very technically brilliant. You know, they use the internet better than almost anybody in the world, perhaps other than Donald Trump. But they use the internet incredibly well. And what they've done with the internet through recruiting and everything, and that's why he died like a dog. He died like a coward. He was whimpering, screaming, and crying. And frankly, I think it's something that should be brought out so that his followers and all of these young kids that want to leave various countries, including the United States, they should see how he died. I want to thank the nations of Russia, Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. And I also want to thank the Syrian Kurds for certain support they were able to give us.
Can you say what role the Kurds played in this, just generally?
They gave us not a military role at all, but they gave us some information that turned out to be helpful. The Kurds. The Kurds have worked along incredibly with us. But in all fairness, it was much easier dealing with the Kurds after they went through 3 days of fighting, because that was a brutal 3 days.
And have you notified the congressional leaders about this, Pelosi?
We've notified some. Others are being notified now as I speak. We were going to notify him last night, but we decided not to do that because Washington leaks like I've never seen before. There's no country in the world that leaks like we do. A leak could have cost the death of all of them.
So you trust, again.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
Where to begin?
Jonathan O'Meara, this reminds me of your question in Helsinki where the president said he trusted Vladimir Putin more than he trusted the head of the FBI or the head of the CIA or the DNI.